Wake Forest knows they need to get to 6 wins.
Sure.
There's only a handful of games that puts them in a range to do that. Wake's is an interesting situation. Last year they had a quarterback battle between Hartman and Newman, and Hartman won the job and then got hurt. Newman pulled a couple upsets against NC State and Duke, and he looks like he's going to be the starter now. Utah State has to make that cross-country trip. Mm-hmm. It is tough with only 2 returning starters on the offensive side.
That's the problem.
But, again, Gary Anderson's a guy who's been there and done that. And you look at what Anderson did building Utah State that first time. You got to remember he took this team 4-8 to 7-6 to 11-2 his last 3 years. So, he's been invested in this team already.
Let's look at the I think this will be a heavily bet game. Boise State and Florida State. The Seminoles way down last year, had a disastrous season. Most people feel there will be significant improvement this year. Boise State, on paper, probably the team to beat in the Mountain West Conference, but on paper hasn't translated to on the field for them in the last couple of years, and they have not been good in what I consider the big games. They had a big game, I believe, early last year against Oklahoma State and fell completely on their face. I can see the same thing happening here, but I do know Boise State will get some money line action against Florida State on what is technically a neutral field, but it's a home neutral for Florida State.
It is. The game's in Jacksonville. Ticket sales are going very poorly. We're probably going to see 30,000 people there, and that's it. But I am on Florida State this game. I've already bet this. I've given it out on videos. I think the Seminoles coming off a 5-7 season with 16 returning starters. Yes, Boise has 13 returning starters, but they're going to have a young quarterback, a freshman, playing against this defense that's going to be fired up. Florida State needs a feel-good win to start. Florida State very well could be a best bet on my Week 1 card.
Yeah, they might actually be a bit underrated going into this season. Everything went wrong for them last year. It was a train wreck season.
Yeah,
they could get better in a hurry. How about a couple you're looking at?
I wouldn't be surprised at all if BYU pulls an upset against Utah. Utah's dominated this series, and Utah's the chic team, to win the division.
A lot of people think they're going to win the Pac-12.
But I think they get too much praise. Most people are picking them to win the Pac-12 because they only have 4 road games and they don't face Oregon and Stanford. They're not the best team, but They have the best schedule by far. BYU is a team that started 50 different players last year. That's the most in football. 22% of their starts were made by freshmen.
Right, and we should point out, in the middle of the season, they basically said, all right,
we're done.
We're done. We're going to start playing the freshmen.
Yeah.
And
let's start next year 6 games early. You're correct. And, you look at it, this is motivation for BYU, Utah that's going to get all the pub. BYU has 17 returning starters. Here's a Week 1 college football angle. Week 1 college football home dogs since 2014, 38-22, 63.3%.
That's just a flat and just straight
every
home dogs.
Wow. Every home dog in college football Week 1.
Yeah, I think, and this is an even bigger game than usual for BYU because Sataki's on the hot seat going in. Okay, this team needs to win games this year, or they're going to be sweeping changes in the coaching staff. And getting out of the gate poorly with a loss to rival Utah in a holy war battle would not be a good thing for them.
I think they lost 6 or 7 straight against Utah as well.
The flip side of that is I think there's a significant coaching edge on the Utah side. Oh, yeah. I mean, that could be really big if this is a close game late. Give me Kyle. He'll figure out a way to win it against the guy who's figured out how to lose a lot of games that have been close.
BYU at least will have a home field edge because it's the opener, because it's Thursday, because it's national TV. They lost so much interest later in the season last year, but it'll be an exciting game, no question.
How about another one that is maybe appealing to you?
This is a little bigger. I like Toledo against Kentucky. I make the line 6. Right now, Kentucky is laying 12. Kentucky is a team that jumped up last year. Yes, the expectations were there, and they got to 10 wins. But Kentucky doesn't have first-round draft choices like Allen that got drafted. They don't have running backs coming up every year like Snell that led the way. They had 5 players drafted last year. In the previous 6 years, Kentucky only had 5 players drafted at all. And Kentucky, as a home favorite, 0-10 over the last 3 years as a home favorite in that role. Toledo, to me, is a live dog. They do only have 11 starters back, but they do have Mitch Gudaganji, I believe is his name. He was injured last year. He is back. He has more experience. I'm a fan of Toledo. I have Toledo as the second-best team in the MAC. They're a team that's been there and done that, and I believe they're at least a live dog potential for an upset.
Tulane is an interesting program, and what we've seen out of Tulane the last couple of years is when you don't give them much of a chance, they have a tendency to rise up and play well. In situations where they've been expected to win, they have flopped. I don't know that it's going to change that much this year. They, to me, still have a very minimal home field advantage. Florida International's got a chance to sneak up on them. It's a closely lined game, so it wouldn't be a big upset, but excuse me, I can see FIU going on the road and getting that one in week one. I'm not real excited about this Tulane team.
I preach this all the time. Before you can cover on the road, you have to learn to win on the road. And FIU was a team that didn't learn how to win on the road before Butch Davis came here. But did you know FIU was 4-1 straight up on the road last year? They are a team. Plus now you have Willie Fritz's offense at Tulane. Willie Fritz was an option quarterback. He runs a semi-option in Tulane.
Yeah, it's not the same. It's an option, but it's not, if you're thinking Army,
it's
Navy
not Georgia
type
Tech,
option, it's
right,
not that at all.
But the advantage is playing them week one, you have all of
summer.
August to prep against that. That extra prep time, it shows up in the bowls. It shows up week one when you have the opportunity to do that and prep against it. I made the game pick. So right now, Tulane's a 2.5-point favorite. So I agree with you that FIU is a team that I'll be looking at.
Those are games I have a tendency to be playing low-line games. And it's a game that's got my attention. I'm going to want a couple of points, but that might be one of those games where I think it's an under-the-radar team where the wrong team might be favored in the football game. Anything else catching your eye? Just another. We're talking some dogs here, but I do want to mention that week one favorites of 28 or more are hitting at about 55% the last 8 years, where the rest of the year they're actually a negative. So if you have a situation where you do like that big favorite, don't be afraid to play them in week one, because those kids are finally get to hit someone and they finally get to play and they jump out to huge leads and the crowds are there. And even though it's early, they're excited. So especially week one, again, if you like a big favorite, that's the week to play it if it fits in your handicapping system. I would agree with that. And it's also an opportunity for the coach to build a lot of confidence and excitement and stuff like that, and sell a lot of tickets in some cases. So, you can see big favorites that bury the opponent in week one. It happens on a pretty regular basis. When we come back, we'll take a look at the big game tonight, the WagerTalk Marquee matchup, Yankees and Red Sox next.
The Las Vegas Sports Line.
Dave Cokin with John Lyons from Lyons Physical Therapy. So give me a rundown on maybe a typical treatment at LPT.
Sure, Dave. On an initial consult, we'll sit down with the patient for at least 10 or 15 minutes, get a history of their injury or their condition. Then we'll move into an assessment where we put our hands on the patient, take them through a few special tests to identify what the pain source is and what the actual injury is. Then we'll use some modalities like heat and electric stimulation to reduce their pain and muscle spasms. And typically our physical therapist or assistant will do some type of manual stretching, massage therapy, or range of motion on that patient. And after the initial visit, we typically see patients 2 to 3 times a week for 4 to 6 weeks.
LionsPTLV.com, 702-476-0222.
What's hot today? It's time for the WagerTalk Marquee Matchup of the Night. WagerTalk.com. Start winning now.
Okay, Yankees and Red Sox tonight. Always fun to see these two teams match up. Not much on the line as far as the divisional race is concerned. The Yankees are going to win the American League East. It's as simple as that. Tampa's not going to catch them. The Red Sox are not going to catch them. Red Sox, of course, in the battle for the wild card. And they're having, they're in position to make a run for it, but whether they will or not remains highly questionable. Tanaka matching up with Porcello tonight, matchup of veteran right-handers. Yankees have been winning when Tanaka takes the mound. They've won each of his last 7 starts. I think the Red Sox have won the last few Porcello starts, but he sure hasn't pitched well. And, man, this guy's got some ugly numbers. Not that Tanaka's having a great season, Ralph, but it's just downright ugly for Porcello. He's been getting hit hard on a regular basis, and only thanks to a good offense does he not have a bad one-loss record.
The Red Sox are 12-8 in his 20 starts. He's 8-7 in his last 5 starts. He is 3-1, yet his ERA is 10.57 over 5 starts. That shows you the hit support, and I guess it's no surprise to know that the last 4 have all gone over the total. You mentioned Tanaka. I mean, Tanaka is one of those pitchers with a 1.16 whip, a great whip, and but he's pitching. He's pitching with authority. He did get hit last time against the Rockies at home, so we'll see what happens. The Red Sox, as I mentioned earlier on first pitch, only 6-16 as a home dog going back to 2016, and they are 0-6 as a home dog this year. The Yankees on the flip side, 9-2 their last 11 as an away favorite, 22-10 as an away favorite their last 32. But mentioning the Yankees, the situation clearly favors Boston. Yankees, of course, off that Twins series where the starters went 4 innings, 3 2/3, 3 1/3. And again, we talked about Chapman coming out for the 9th for back-to-back games.
I would doubt that he's available.
Yeah, and I really think the Yankees wanted to make a statement. The Twins are a potential matchup that they haven't faced. They want to make the statement that they're the better team. They beat them twice in Minnesota to win the series 2 out of 3. So to them, I think the Red Sox, the Twins were the more important series than the Red Sox when you compare the two.
One thing the Red Sox have to be concerned about is what happens in the late innings. Now, what they are doing is Nate Eovaldi, one of the heroes of last season's postseason run that resulted in a World Series championship, he is back on the active roster, and they're going to pitch him out of the bullpen. I would not be surprised if he ends up being the closer for this team down the stretch. Really? Well, why not? I mean, if you're going to put him in the bullpen, you might as well put him into the most high-leverage situation. I'm not saying right away he's going to get some innings under his belt, but their bullpen has been pathetic. And they need a stabilizing force at the back end. And I think Eovaldi might be given that chance. I'm not suggesting that he might be out there in the 9th inning tonight. I don't know. But I think there's something to be made for that argument that Eovaldi is going to become their high-leverage guy in the bullpen because nobody else is getting the job done on a regular basis. Brandon Workman probably the closest to getting it done on a regular basis, and I'm not sure he strikes fear into the hearts of the opposition. Eovaldi, with the ability to throw close to 100 miles an hour, he might.
Does Porcello winning those games despite pitching poorly keep his spot in the pitching lineup safe?
I don't think they have any choice.
They have no choice of bringing Eovaldi and putting him in for Porcello.
I don't think they want to pile up the innings on Eovaldi's arm. To tell you the truth, and then what do they do with Porcello? I mean, you're paying him all that money for the rest of this year anyway. He can leave after this year, but you may as well try and get your money's worth. And the thing is that he's doing is he's keeping them in games. He's not pitching them to wins, but he's not getting blown up to the point where they have no chance to win the game. So
pitching 5 innings, giving up 5 runs.
Yeah, it's not great by any means, but with their offense, you can get by with that. In progress, Rockies and Nationals. A little bit of a surprising score here. We are going to the bottom of the 5th, and the Nationals have a man on and 1 out, but they are trailing right now 3-0 as the Rockies put up a 3 spot against Max Scherzer. And right now, to the surprise of many, Hoffman and the Rockies are up 3-0. That could have an impact on a lot of tickets that are out there today, Ralph.
Closed as high as 320 in some places. You know, people see Scherzer, people see what he did, and hey, if I'm betting a parlay today, it's going to be Washington or Washington on the run line against Colorado. Go. So,
yep. They're going minus 160 on the runs line.
Yeah,
which is not going to see that high a runs line as a rule.
Again, let's put it in perspective, though. Colorado is a team that I think was 3-17 their last 20 coming into today, so they haven't shown much.
Let's talk about what's happening at WagerTalk as we're getting into that busy time of year.
Well, you know, it's always exciting in football season. I will be posting probably by Monday a WagerTalk preseason guide. And for those that play preseason, Couple things that I want to mention that you need to look for. Coaching